Hi, this is Naomi with Sword and Steel, and today I'm showing you all the different Black Templars for Primaris Space Marines that are currently available, plus a few extra models that come in those same kits. So Games Workshop has given me a load of Black Templars, all the various Primaris Black Templar units that you can currently have, times 2 in some cases. We have got 2 10-man Crusader squads. One is from the Army Box, and one is from the Combat Patrol. They're all multi-kit kits, so you can make them in a variety of different ways, though they are restricted to making 4 neophytes, 5 initiates, and a sword brother per group. The sword brothers, of course, you can be snuck out if you weren't playing the Crusade squad, to be stuck in with this 5-man group sword brothers. Now, the sword brethren are ones that you can take a minimum of 4 of, because you can turn one of the 5 sword brethren into a castellan that has in the sword brethren group the castellan weapon choices as well, or you can turn it into a 5th sword brother, whichever you choose. This castellan again comes with the sword brethren kit. The sword brethren kit are very straightforward, much like these guys. Everything is pretty straightforward to put together. You've got various options for how their head can turn and how they can wield their weapons and what angles and whatnot. You can give them whatever weapon upgrades are possible for the sword brethren, including the 5 power swords if you want to go that route. However, their cloaks have 2-piece cloaks, and I never like 2-piece cloaks because it makes you have to get rid of the join by using plastic glue. It is pretty straightforward. You just follow the curves of the cloak once you have the 2 pieces assembled and get rid of it slowly but surely with nice thin plastic glue. But you do have to be wary of this cloak and how it falls over. If you want it to be a reasonably accurate looking cloak, how it falls over the shoulder pads and over the arms and weapons. For example, this fellow, his cloak goes over a elbow, clearly, so you have to pay attention to how you're assembling the models, and you also have to pay attention to the fact that some of these models, for example, this is a left hand with an axe, a power axe. The power axe does not come on the right hand, so you're going to have to make certain that you keep your other weapon on the correct hand. And you have the option for all of them to be without helmets. There's the helmetless options, but I put them all in helmets. And you do get a couple extra helmets beyond that. So if you needed helmets for, say, your marshals that don't originally come with helmets, then you could use some of the sword brethren, though there are also a couple extra helmets in the Crusader squad. This marshal has the helmet on from the upgrade sprue that comes with the combat patrol. So the combat patrol comes with intercessors and an impulsor, and because of that, it also comes with the upgrade sprue that could give the impulsor its multi-melta, which is the weapon that I would be using. I haven't attached either of them specifically, but the multi-melta on top is what I would be using on my impulsor, who doesn't have its bottom pieces because I'm going to be painting him. This Emperor's Champion comes in the Army Box, just as he is. Very straightforward model to assemble. Looks good. This Castellan comes alone by himself. Now, as I believe I've already mentioned, there is a Castellan option in the Sword Brethren. I chose to build Castellan to see what he was like in the Sword Brethren. But if you wanted more Sword Brethren, you could always get this Castellan, which definitely looks different than the Sword Brethren Castellan, who basically looks just like a Sword Brethren, but has a different weapon option. The High Marshal, Halberick, has very little variety for what he can wield. He's very set on his on what he can wield. And these two have their very particular positions because there's not much space to put them anywhere else. But you could have an orc, as I'm sure some of you have already seen, an orc corpse being stabbed by his weapon. I chose to go with the alternative build, which does not include the orc. Why? Because I want to use the orc corpse somewhere else. I don't know what it's going to be stabbed by, but it's going to be enjoyable for me. I'm contemplating removing him so he'd be like polishing a window somewhere. But I decided to keep them since they do have attacks on his data sheet. The same thing with this guy, Grimaldus and his retinue of servitors following him behind. I really like his little book. I probably would have taken his little book as a bit, except for he is known for how much he likes carrying artifacts around, so I couldn't get rid of his book because that seemed like he should be loaded down with stuff. The servitors are quite straightforward to put together. If you wanted to sub-assembly, this whole thing comes off. It's attached by the skeleton's elbows. So if you wanted to paint it sub-assembled, this part is easy to attach afterwards. The whole piece is separate. This fellow is also quite straightforward. You just want to try and keep his arm perpendicular so it makes sense and attaches this thing, which will come on later. And this one, I should mention, it does have something that I would suggest you to change. It suggests putting this guy on before, it suggests putting on the pillar before you attach his arm and this chain piece, but I would suggest attaching his arm to him first and attach the chain to the pillar first and then attach the pillar. It's just so much easier to put it in the exact correct place. It will look like it's not attaching properly on this side, but that's because you will not add this arm until after the pillar is attached. And then it'll all look exactly right. These two guys, the Redemptor Dreadnought and the Impulsor, if you have never tried them before, they will take you hours to assemble. So take your time and do it right. There's a bunch of different ways that you could possibly make a mistake because the pieces will look very similar, but they will not be exactly the same. And particularly for this Redemptor Dreadnought, there's a whole bunch of areas that you're not supposed to glue together. So keep that in mind. And even, I don't have him attached to his base, and even this little here, you don't necessarily have to attach these guys. They can slide out and slide back in again, particularly if you leave a tiny bit of sprue, because it won't be visible from where the sprue comes off. You leave a tiny bit of sprue for some more resistance. You can take these off and change them up with the storm bolters that could be there instead. And then this one is one that you could just place on, but I gave him a little bit more strength with some magnetization. And I also magnetized the various weapons. Though, for myself, I'm going to be keeping this one on. I'm going to be using the heavy Gatling gun, and I don't have it attached, but it should attach here. The Gatling gun. There could be a heavy flamer or a Gatling cannon. Sorry, Gatling cannon. I'm going to choose the Gatling cannon. I'm just going to magnetize it, I think, first. But there are pieces, there's nice mobility here that if you glue it on, you are missing the mobility. This is not the natural mobility. I magnetized it so I could do this. There's no really good reason to magnetize it. I just want him to be able to dance on his base once I attach it. There was no good reason for that except for dancing. So I think I have everything covered. If there was anything that you wanted to know about any of these pieces, let me know in the comments below. I am going to be painting these in a video, all in the one video, because I'm planning on painting these as fast as possible. I'm going to be using tricks that will make paint jobs that still look good. That's my plan. So if you want to check that out when it comes out, and maybe if you're not necessarily doing Black Templar but still want to do models that have black armor, you might want to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you to those who already have. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. And if you had any questions, remember, I've gone through this. I know what the different weapons options are. I know the various extra bits. There's a whole bunch of extra bits. You should be able to make whatever combination that you want, as long as it's legal to Black Templars in the kits that you get. But if you had a question about it, you should let me know in the comments below. And I guess I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye! Question is, will I be sane after these guys are done? That's the real question. That's the real question.